Uppal. I'm the chairman of Garden of Arts, and today I'm with a very special guest, Frances Yeung. She's actually from China, and you can see that, drama, art, music, heritage isn't only sort of about the UK. There's a lot of international personalities bring a wealth of heritage from, those countries, and they've got their own culture, own sort of, the equivalence of Shakespeare, and they also have drama there in those countries. And really the challenge is how to sustain that and promote that in the UK. So a very interesting character. Well, Frances, welcome to the Garden of Arts, and it's a real pleasure having you here. Bit about yourself. The interview is really more about your journey from China and coming here to the UK, and how that's kind of evolved. Tell me a little bit about yourself, in where you come from, and how did you embark on this journey? A bit of your background in China. Where did you live?
Yeah.
Your family, and a little bit about that.
So I was born in China, Jiangxi, and at the age of 5, the whole family moved to Hong Kong. So it's ex-British colony. So life has changed quite a lot from China to Hong Kong. So my upbringing, my sort of primary and secondary education is predominantly in Hong Kong, in the shadow of the British colonization, really. So and I came to the UK when I was 17. So I've been in the UK for almost 3 decades.
And did you do all your schooling back, back in Hong Kong, I assume?
Yes. So I started my kindergarten in Hong Kong and primary school, and then sort of up till GCSE first year. So in the UK, I continued my GCSE second year. So I came to UK at a boarding school.
Oh, okay.
And which is really interesting, because you meet quite a lot of international students here.
Of course.
Yes, and back in the day we don't actually have phones, so everyone miss home, and then we actually have to wait in the corridor for one telephone just to call home once a week. So life was tough for a teenage, of that age.
What made you make that decision? Was it parents? Did they support you on that?
Absolutely. Financially, they support me to come to the UK to study. And by the time I came, my sister's already here. So she came 1987. Yeah. And I wanted to leave Hong Kong for a long time, because I didn't feel I fit in Hong Kong. There's a lot of discrimination in Hong Kong, because back in the day China wasn't as developed as now. So back in the day there's a lot of discrimination, so life was quite tough for myself and my family. So in a way, coming to UK, my face looked very different, but you kind of expect you might be treated differently. But in a sense, it's quite a relief, because if you're discriminated by people who look like yourself, it's quite a different kind of othering. Yeah.
So when you came here, it was quite daunting, did you find, or did you sort of find it's much more settled, if you know what I mean? Because obviously, in Hong Kong, those times were quite volatile and challenging.
Yes, particularly when it was coming up to 1997, when the changeover back to the ownership back to China. So there were a lot of talking, and actually even from the late 80s, 90s, people were immigrating to Canada, Australia, UK. So people with a bit of money, with a bit of social status, they would have left Hong Kong already because of the fear of future. But to me, my family, my parents been through lots of hardship through Cultural Revolution.
Sure.
So I knew, obviously that period, after post-war, lots of countries are experience famine and hardship and rebuilding lives in peaceful time. So but the Cultural Revolution is another level, because really the country's really been turned around. The intellectuals been prosecuted, and so for me, I personally haven't been through, but in the background my parents is always talking about
there.
it's always there. I wish I've paid more attention to what they actually said.
So when you came here at the age of 17 in a boarding school, coming from a completely different environment, and how did you culturally, settle down in an environment in the UK? And maybe you can sort of touch on, sustaining and retaining your heritage in the way you lived back there with your parents, the culture. When you came here, were you able to practice it, sustain it, religiously, or any other component of the culture?
I think to answer the first part of your question is I think language is very important. So to learn the English language, to get on with everyday life, and then also the education side. So I knew very early on I need to improve my English when I came to UK. So it's a completely different language system, right? But on the other hand, I back in the day wrote to my parents at least once or twice per month, and so that's in a way my way of keeping connection with my family and my heritage. But as years go by, we write less to start with, and more so is I write less in Chinese. So in that sense, I am feeling that I'm losing part of my heritage in that sense. But my children, they are now 18 and 15. They've been to Sunday Chinese school.
Really?
So they have.
And is that deliberate, sort of from yourself?
Yes, it's quite a common practice. And
make sure they sustain that culture.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think my husband, he's also Hong Kong Chinese. He didn't really sort of wanted to get into learning Chinese. Put hard work in, and in a sense, from the age of 20s, he kind of regret not put more hard work into learning the language, because it's how you connect with the heritage.
It's very easy to lose it. I think
it's
because of the environment here so fast. So technology-wise, I think it kind of squeezes it out of you, and it's difficult. And you have to make a deliberate, conscious decision, a bit like myself. On my children. So you came over, and then you did your education here, and you did your degree from which university?
It's Manchester Metropolitan University.
So what degree did you actually do?
So it was quite a grand name, Design and Art Direction, but ultimately it's prepare myself go into the web and graphic design industry. So which I spent almost 20 years. But then in 2018, as you grow older, you want to be more in touch with your own heritage. So that was when I started some sort of personal art project. That's kind of when I start contacting the Birmingham Chinese community to see what they're doing. Because it's quite a shame that back in the 80s, 90s, there was a Coventry Chinese community, and it's funded by...
So you moved to Coventry, basically?
Yes, So back in the day, there was one. It's funded by Heritage grant, but that came to an end. So from the noughties, there was no longer a Chinese community centre in Coventry. So the natural thing for me to do, where is the nearest, is in Birmingham. And as you would expect, you walk in and you feel welcomed, and you feel belong.
Part of it,
And so I kind of we did some sort of art commission together. I did some community artwork with them.
So once you finished university, you started your education. I believe you actually do your career. Tell me a bit about your career and how that's led to the PhD, and I'd like to hear more about the PhD, what the subjects are.
I mean, ultimately, so yeah, 2018 was the year I still continue to be a web and graphic designer,
Right.
but that's the commercial side. And I didn't feel like it fulfilled me internally as a person, because again, really living in the UK as a person with Jew heritage, you're always aware that, you know, you've got multiple identity, you know.
Of
At
course.
home, you behave slightly differently. You almost codify yourself, you know. When you go out, you know you're going to eat sandwich.
I
as
like
if
this
the
word
person-
codify, you know.
Yeah.
It's
You kind of like switch, like we've got relatives whose both parents are Chinese, grew up in Coventry, but they work in a takeaway and they know, go in the kitchen, you speak Cantonese or Mandarin, you come out, you speak to the customer in English. And that switch is just seconds, you know. You from young age, you just learn, you know.
It's natural.
It's very natural.
And somebody coming from outside, and I find that same with, you know, I'm from India, north of India, and I speak Punjabi and English, you know, I did all my education here, more in the technology. And sometimes you're together in a community, and suddenly you switch.
Yeah, just
and
like
you, like
that.
you say, you know, it's just part of the code.
It becomes
isn't it?
so natural. But when other people, like
I think,
sometimes
how do you manage that? You know,
I think you just it's a survival skill. I think, you know, I always see myself as a twice migrant person. That migrant person means that you pack your luggage very lightly and move to a different location and resettle, relearn, and adapt to the new place and survive. So. And it's a mentality, you know. You use very little resource to rebuild your life, and I think it's very much a very resilient kind of character that built you to, you know, to be very adaptive, you know, to a new world.
Yeah. So, you know, so the PhD. So, tell me a bit about the PhD. Where are you doing the PhD?
Yes. So I surprised myself that I even got into a PhD, because I worked for over 20 years in the industry. You know,
So it's good to go back. Yeah.
I would say like I graduated in 1999 and then sort of went back to do a.
The cogs get a bit dry, I think, because I went back into it and did my masters after, you know, many years. You know,
It's the university environment's changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I would use the term like neoliberal driven, you know. It's more market driven. It runs like a business. I don't know if it's too controversial to mention these sort of things. Back in like the 90s when I was at Manchester University, it feel like there's a lot more care. You know, I wasn't just a figure, you know, that I was, you know, I feel like I'm treated like a student, a person. I've been nurtured by my lecturer. Whereas now, I think from the management to the whole how the universities are run, it's just a lot more competitive, a lot more profit-driven, and hence, as a student, you then feel the level of care. It's very, very different from before. You know.
Yes, I think time has progressed, and the time that I went to universities was many years ago. It's quite different, and I come back here and I visit the University of Birmingham. A lot of work we're doing with the MA students, as you know. Things are quite somewhat different. Yeah. So
I still haven't touched on my PhD.
Yeah. In terms of the PhD, is that something you want to use more and move into a different career? What I want to know is in terms of your views in terms of how can you enhance the environment or things you learned, your heritage in Hong Kong and Chinese in China, and now that you're here, your children are here. How do we protect that? Because obviously it does diminish quite a lot, and our children do change. And some of the work that Garden of Arts are doing is performing arts, where we concentrate some of the love stories of Punjab and, you know, Hi Ranja, we're trying to bring those into place. Is there any of that happening in the Chinese culture, you know, maybe more so than that we're doing, and we're finding it's diminishing, and the children are losing that. So, in your view, how can we protect that, you know, enhance that as well?
Yeah, and I think domestically at home, food is a key connector, I think, because in Chinese culture anyway, food is so rich, you know, and I mean, we cook many different cuisine at home, like we would, you know, do Italian pizza, pasta, but most days we would cook rice, and it's what the children, like the kids prefer, and that's kind of what made them want to, oh, shall we travel to Taiwan and Hong Kong, just so they could eat more of that, you know. And in some way, social media also does a lot of work, because when I came to UK, I know nothing about UK. I've not seen many pictures of it. Nowadays, my daughter, she's planning to do a degree in China, but with a sort of due award linking to, I think it's called twinned degree, linking to a UK university. So she's interested because on an everyday language, we talked about like, you know, how does this food makes you feel, you know, what, and she wants to learn how to cook these dishes as well.
And can I just ask you a slightly different spin? You know, I'll give you an example. You know, here in the UK, we have Shakespeare, you know, and, you know, Romeo and Juliet. A lot of the arts are performed around that. Tell me a bit more about the Chinese culture. How are your children relating to any of those love stories or any of those traditional stories? And they had a lot of culture in those. It was a story, but it represented, you know, certain taboos in the culture, certain things you must not do. Are you kind of seeing a lot of that being preserved in UK, in the Chinese community, and with your children as well?
Yeah, I would say, unfortunately, it's not very preserved, yes. I think nowadays it's so fast-paced, you know, lots of children spend a lot of time on social media, and not necessarily to do with any literature or heritage or culture. But I did ask, because of this, I shown my girls about the 3, you know, Chinese classic stories, and one of them sort of did show some interest. And if you search on YouTube, you can tell that there's a lot of interesting animation remaking of these stories, and she finds them quite interesting. And comparing to the Romeo and Juliet that she knows about, she finds the Western ones are still very much based on reality, whereas she finds the Chinese ones are just way so much more wild and imaginative and very poetic as well. So, and I think... do
you think we have a duty to bring that out?
To bring that out, yes, yeah. Just every now and again, you know, maybe just even show them on, you know, YouTube, because there's so many different adaptations.
And what about performing arts live? I mean, do you see a lot of Chinese plays here? You know, there's a lot of, I mean, China's a very colourful culture, obviously. Do you see some of the plays that you can say here, or arts events you can take your children and say, oh wow, you know, this is like going back in China, and you could feel, touch, you know.
I think as a parent, bringing up sort of children, I feel whenever if I frame it in that way, like, oh, we're going to see a show that's Chinese, it actually turned them off, you know.
Really?
Yes, they would, because their friends at school don't do that. They would think, why are you singling me out to do it? But I think it's where if whenever you just sort of go and do the events like to see a show that has, say, Chinese story element, they wouldn't mind, you know. So it's a very nuanced, complex way.
It's a challenge for parents, I think.
Yes, yeah, because they as
can't relate
teenage,
to it.
teenage, they want to be like their friends, you know. They don't want to be sort of single out. But I think we as parents don't stop telling them these interesting stories. Because and also different festivals as well. So within the calendar year, you have a Moon Festival, Chinese New Year festival, and it's those days that because throughout their primary school, whenever there's a Lunar Chinese New Year, they dressed in the traditional Chinese costume to go to school on that day, particularly in the primary school. And they feel proud of wearing different costumes to go to school that day and telling their friends that, look, today might feel very ordinary to you guys, but it's actually a very special day for me and my culture, that, you know, it's a Lunar New Year. So, and they don't mind doing that when they're in primary school. But as soon as they get to secondary school, they feel, ooh, it's a bit embarrassed and sort of, I'm sure they're still proud of their
And what about
heritage.
the adults? I mean, how do you feel you left that, you know, that environment, and do you feel you want to relate to it still? You want to hang on to it, or do you think it's progression?
I definitely think our life is so much richer. We have multiple culture influence, and in some way, in the UK, the culture is so diverse. You know, we're constantly, you know, just looking at our food, and you know, you go to a different theatre. You know, it's usually produced by people from different, very diverse background. You know, you've got, you know, African influence in music, Caribbean, Indian.
So you think, you know, we've got a lot more choice here in terms of heritage, rather than just ours, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree. It is somewhat a melting pot. It's, but there are obviously communities like, you know, pretty sort of, you know, old communities where they want to retain it, they want to pass it on, they want to sustain the language, you know, and you know, relation back to where they came from, their heritage. So there is that aspect as well. So what next for Frances in terms of, you know, where would you like to sort of take your career and yourself here in the UK? Now, where would you like to move now?
That's a big question.
It's an open question. It's all yours.
Yeah, big question.
It's about you.
I think doing the PhD, I think it's because my hunger of like knowledge. I love the idea of diving into something and sort of spend time dive into it. So, and I think the PhD is trying to prove to myself that I can sustain a project for a long time and try and see it from start to finish, and working on the idea of, you know, belonging, identity, and collective memory. And those are always going to be the themes that I'm interested in, really. But and I think by doing that, my kids watch me struggle through the whole PhD journey. And I think to me it's one of the best gift to them, because we always say parenting is modeling, you know. So rather than me saying that, oh,
I
you
wish
should
there was
do
a
that.
book I could buy off the shelf on parenting.
Exactly, you know.
You can practice,
it's
but there isn't one. Yeah.
No, there isn't. There is no blueprint. But I think this journey itself, by them watching me, because very often kids think, oh, parents has got everything sussed out. But the fact it's not. We're still learning. And the fact that they watch me this journey, and I think it's the best gift to them to show that we are continually learning, you know. There is no like getting to a point and you're done, you know. It's always continued journey of learning. And I think, and having them witnessing that, we could sometimes switch role, that they could be the the person watching from the sideline to say that, look, you know, you don't have to struggle in this way, try this way, you know.
Yes.
They are, so sometimes we
They're
have
in the
roles.
driving seat, I think, you know. Yeah. Well, Frances, I thank you very much. My real appreciation, you sort of coming along and obviously helping the masters, the arts program, and the students. I'm sure they'll welcome your help, and certainly from Garden of Arts. We look forward to working with you more in the heritage sector, and really maybe we can pan out into the more of the Chinese, you know, the community, because Garden of Arts is an open umbrella organization. So we're always looking for, you know, opening doors for people who want to come and you know, practice their art, you know, whether it be music, art or media or anything else they wish to explore artistically. It's an opportunity environment. So thank you.
Thank you, yes.
So that was Frances Yeung, and you know, a PhD student who took some time out of her diary, busy diary, to join us and give us a view on, you know, coming back from a fairly different environment like Hong Kong, from China, and bringing that culture here and trying to retain it and finding a life. And she's obviously gone through the sequence of you know, learning the English culture and trying to retain hers and passing that on to the children, and some of the challenges that obviously we all face in trying to get us to children to retain the heritage. So I wish you the best, and I'm Paul Uppal. Thank you for joining me, and we shall see you sometime. Thank you.